So you have this second big hit, How to Make the Baby Go to Sleep, and then it's got 20 million views. How many followers do you get as a result of that?
Oh, it was nuts. Like, yeah, crazy. Like 250,000 followers like in a week. Yeah, in a week. There were times where it was growing like at 20,000 followers a day, like just continually through 2016, 2017.
And is that the point where you're starting to think, holy shit, I can monetize? Like,
no, it happened in a real short 1 month window. So we had that video that went absolutely gangbusters, 20 million views. Then we get an email from Destination Rotorua. Hi Jordan, we'd love to bring you and the family out to enjoy Rotorua on us if you make a video out here. And we like, me and Jody like jumping around the lounge like, holy shit, this is so cool. Hell yes, we'll come out to Rotorua, make a video. And they were real cool about, they kind of sowed the seed in my head before I even thought about it. But they're like, we don't want you to overdo it. We don't want you being like, hey, I'm in Rotorua. Just have some backgrounds. Like make sure we're in the background, and you don't even have to like have the welcome to Rotorua sign. And I'm like, oh, this sounds great. So we did this video, How to Travel with a Baby. And so this is only 2 weeks after that video has gone massive, and we've traveled. I've edited this video, and another 20 million views. That was what kicked it. I had 2 insanely massive videos within like a fortnight, and they paid us like, we got the trip and we got like $1,000. But when you think of what they got out of it,
some of the best marketing spend ever.
I know. I talked about it. I got invited to speak at something like a year ago, and the lady was actually, I was telling the same story, and I go, imagine if I bumped into them now, I'd be saying, where's my money? And then afterwards she's like, I'm the lady. Because they got 20 million views out of $1,000 and hosting a family for a week. But that was when that paid gig came through, we're like, oh shit. Oh, okay. So there can be like money in this as well. And then your brain just starts going like, I can quit my job. I can be my own boss. Everything starts.
Yeah. So you're still Jono and Ben.
I'm still Jono and Ben. Yep.
You've had this huge month, and then the wheels are starting to turn. Shit. How there must have been a period of time when you were still working, when you were thinking about throwing in the full-time job.
An entire year.
Was it?
I worked myself ridiculous hours and freaked out just for the fear of, I had 2 kids. We were renting, and John on Ben was a it was known that if you got onto John on Ben, it was a real good gig because they were such long production times. They had 30 to 40 episodes in a row. So where other TV gigs, you might be on there for like 6 weeks to a month, 2 months, and then you got to find another job. And I was like, shit, I can't throw this in. How today it could blow up, it could fall over tomorrow. But we were slowly getting more and more kind of brand deals. Like Air New Zealand were coming through. I had an agency reach out, so I was able to sign on with them, and they help you do all the money stuff. More and more paid gigs. But it still just didn't give me I could have left John on Ben way earlier, but I was just freaking out. So John on Ben was like, I'd leave home at 7:30 and not get home till 6:30. Like it was big hours on it. And so you're hardly seeing the kids. And then I'd see the kids, and then I'd work till mainly like till midnight. At least midnight, and that's mainly sifting through emails, bro. Just, you don't know one video that even goes slightly viral, your email's just full. And 99% of it is dodgy things like real bad English from countries you've never heard of. You sell 20,000 glow stick, we give you cents. Like what? Thanks, delete. Delete. It's so much just deleting, not even replying. It's people that are copy and pasting. But then now and then you'll see a brand or a Kiwi brand, like Air New Zealand or Ford or something will reach out, and then you're like, oh. And then you...
Before you left Jono and Ben, did the attitude change around, like they must have known they had this star that was blowing up as part of the team. Like was there any attempt to bring How to Dad into what they were doing?
There's a little bit. It was definitely, it was weird. In a way it was weird. Like there was all like, whoa, like there'd be moments, or a lot of the writers were this very clicked together comedy guys, where they kind of had their writers click that stuck together, and they would never really care about anything until they saw. I hadn't even heard of what Reddit was, and then they're like, all of a sudden, one day they're like, "You're on the front page of Reddit. Like you're the number 1 video on Reddit." I'm like, "What?" And that video wasn't even going viral on any of my platforms, but it was number 1 on Reddit. I'm like, "What?" And all of a sudden, it was this, "Oh shit!" And then, I know it was a weird chemistry. I was still just Jordan who cracked the whip because I climbed the ladder. So I was still Jordan who's like, nah, you've painted that bloody thing wrong and you've built that wrong. Or I was like helping direct John on Ben. So I was still that guy but there were bits of, at the same time, shit, this dude's really blowing up. And even I was weird with it. Like, it was a weird thing to deal with. And there was a time that we did a few skits with me, but I don't know, it's just it was a kind of weird, it was a weird time, is the easiest way to put it.
Was there a moment where you'd been thinking about it for a year, and then there is a day where you hand in your resignation notice? Was there a specific moment or something that forced you to do it that day or that week?
Nah, not that I can think of. Not at all. I would have been talking about it with the missus constantly for like a year, and then finally kind of built up the courage, and maybe I got another gig come through. It's like we were just getting these gigs, and I was just thinking, okay, there's kind of a cycle here. We're not stuffing this up. It's growing. Now's the time. And we got a place. I was driving scooters at the time because I hated traffic, and I'm a big guy. I'm not a tiny guy on a scooter. Scooters can hardly propel anyone, right? So I'm on a 50cc scooter and trying to go up these hills around Auckland, and they just go down to like 20 kilometers an hour, and you've got buses trying to pass you. And we moved to the North Shore, and so I got a motorbike license and bought this big bike because I was like, shit, I can't drive a scooter over the harbour bridge. I'll die. Yeah. So now I've got a motorbike. And within a month of moving to the North Shore, I quit John on Ben, and then just had this motorbike sitting in my shed. But there was no moment. Just 2017. That's all I can remember. Threw it in and How to Dad full time.
Okay, so now we're into full time How to Dad.
Jeez, I wish I'd gone to like a psychic to stir up my memory better. It's like trying to drag through all of this, but I think I'm doing all right.
You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job.
Can I just have one more Jono and Ben question? Are there ever any reunion get-togethers? Because that's an incredible conveyor belt of talent.
The boys, Jono and Ben, have never stopped working. Those guys are just workaholics. But the crew behind the scenes, we now and then, but no, there hasn't been like a proper let's get together. It would be amazing to do it, but every time, at least a couple times a year, if I'm up here, I'll get all the production guys that I've met and known, camera guys and that. We'll get together and have a beer or so and find out what everyone's working on. Because you do kind of think back to Jono and Ben. It's like a great comedy show, great group of people, but it's also like one of the hardest shows. Everyone knew it in the industry. Like if you're working on Jono and Ben, you're like, it's a stress cooker because it was a topical show. It was like, let's say the show's going to air on you do the studio record on a Thursday night, and you've planned out your show. You've got your sketches that are topical of what's happened in the week, and then something massive happens on Thursday morning. You're like, you can't not put it in the show. So all of a sudden it's like, crew, Jordan, or whatever, whoever's available, go, get out there and shoot that with thing, quickly go into it. And it's just, 6 months of constant stress of pumping out a weekly show. It was a crock pot.
I'm going to dip into that memory bank one last time. What was the most elaborate set design or prop that you needed to construct from scratch during that time?
Oh, shit. So many. Oh, it's more like just little tricks of trying to do stuff as opposed to massive things. Oh, explode. Oh, Holden's gone under. They won't care anymore. There was one where we pretended that we blew up Jono's ute, and like health and safety wise, we weren't always the best. It was like, oh no, we'll be right. And we went out to this farm, and it's on a steep hill, and it's just a narrow race. And Jono's up on this field. It's a photo shoot, and there's this big barn, and we've got this dodgy guy from Taupiti who does explosives. He's come out and he's rigged this massive fireball explosion. And we'd planned it all out. Well, I was the only guy planning it out about how do we make out like his ute's accidentally rolled down the hill, and because he can't see the park lights on. So since Jono's been dropped off and he's parked his ute on this hill. Oh, sorry, Jono's arrived. He's parked his ute on this hill and he's hopped out. Then I've had to sneak on the other side, hop in, turn the key on one click, lying down with the seat laid flat, and I've got the handbrake on, so the brake lights aren't on. I've got it in neutral. I've tilted the right-hand side electric mirror all the way down because I'm lying down right in this ute. Now I have to reverse it, only using one hand and steering at this mirror, and I've got to be fully off. I've got to commit, and I can't touch the brake, and I've got to roll this ute down this hill in reverse through this farm race, and then I've got to go over this wooden bridge and not go off the edge of the wooden bridge and then hit the pins at the exact same time so it doesn't spit out the other side of the barn, and then the explosion's cued. And everyone is stressing the shit out, and we absolutely nailed it. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So that would be my proudest stunt, even though I wasn't a stunt guy. But it wasn't something I constructed, but it's something I pulled off. So I'd like to thank my rural upbringing there. Yeah, cheers.
Beautiful.
I could have done it with like 6 trailers on, but didn't want to show off.
Okay, so you're leaving John and Ben behind, and we're out into the world of content creator. And I imagine you would be the only person that you knew that had this job title. Like, what's your strategy? Who are you talking to for advice? Like, what is your game plan from there?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of game plan in it at all. It was, I definitely remember Googling like how to parenting ideas, not ideas, but trying to find out what are the main things. But I was already living that, so that came easy. So all those classics, like how to change a nappy, how to hold a baby, how to burp a baby, how to stop a baby from crying, all those ones you're going to question anyway were easy, bankable video ideas. Like, great, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. But there was never a, like, sit down, right, I've got to come up with this, I need this. For that first, before I went full-time, but for that first year, before it was my full-time gig, it was like it was usually like a Saturday or a Sunday. I was like, shit, we got to do a video. And that's how quick they'd come together, and we'd quickly shoot it and edit it and get it up. But even once it became a full-time thing, I never really had a big plan. I just knew that I had to pump out a video every week. And now that I'm doing it full-time, maybe 2 a week. And then, yeah, you just start exploring other things, trying different things at the same time, sticking tried and true to the how-to. I remember being real strict on that. We had this brand approach us from Australia. They had sorry, B is really bad for a podcast because you get quite burpy, and I'm trying to politely burp to the
burp
side.
away.
I coughed through it there.
Just burp away.
But we had this brand reach out, and they had a really good chunk of cash. Like, we do a GPS hiking unit that goes on your backpack. And I was like, okay, what's the how-to though? Like, it had to be a how-to title, or I couldn't do it. What's the how-to? And they're like, and I was like, I could go how to hike with a baby, and then have all these stereotypical dads, and then the serious dad with the GPS. And they're like, no, it's got to be called exploring with the whatever brand it was, exploring with the Export Gold GPS unit. And I was like, no, it can't be that. Like, every video I've ever done is how to. I'm not going to do that. Yeah, no, it has to be, mate. And I thought he was joking, and I was like, start laughing. He's like, mate, it has to be called this, or we won't be doing it with you. And and we hadn't made a lot then, and we turned that down. And that happens, I guess that's been a big success of it as well, without sounding real wanky, but we turned down a lot. To this day, like, I still smack myself from a gig I turned down last year, and I'm like, financially, I'm like, we probably should have done that one again. Would have really helped the bank account. But you got to turn down stuff that isn't going to sit with you, or doesn't feel right, or you don't get that. You usually know within the first minute of a brand wanting to work with you. You'll have that quick idea in your head, but if you're forcing it, it's never really going to work, and my agents all hate me for it. But I turn down way more than I accept.
Because that's critical to the success as well as the management of your own brand, right? Because to the point of bush shirt, stubbies, jandals, like, did you really commit to that bit in everyday life?
Yeah,
I say commit to it, but it was every day.
I 100% committed to it. So yeah, that was the first video I was wearing stubbies and a bush shirt. So then it was either going to be gumboots or jandals on the bottom. We got flown to, some insane shits happened. We got flown to New York to go to the red carpet of the Boss Baby premiere. And that was with Universal, and all they wanted was a live streamed video. I was like, this is great. Yeah, it's a New York thing. And like, it's Boss Baby. She's a baby. This all ties in. Doesn't have to be a how-to thing. Oh, I think I typed in the top of the how to red carpet. I just needed it in there so I could sleep at night. And it is 3 degrees, winter in New York, and I'm in stubbies at a bush shirt and jandals. And we walk down this red carpet, and all cameras just are going nuts. And I'm thinking, they're filming Nala, because Nala was in a little Boss Baby thing. And it was more just on me, like, who's this guy and what's he wearing? And I froze my ass off, but I committed to the bit. And at the other end of the spectrum, we've been to, like, when we went to Shanghai, and it's like 35 degrees in the most humid time ever. And I'm just sweating. Like, so I'd be in a singlet, and then the moment we had to film anything, pull the bush shirt out the bag, get it on, just quickly get the shot. Hey, kid. And then quickly back off singlet. And everyone out there that wears a bush shirt or a fleece knows how they're famous for moisture. Like, you can pour a glass of water on one, it'll bead off. So imagine that on the inside. Like, unlike cotton, that'll absorb a little bit of your sweetness, so you don't feel like you're just sitting in water. You put a stuffed bush shirt that's been in your backpack all day through China back on, is just putting on like a wet flipping piece of Glad wrap over your body, and then you're running trying to it's a bad time. And sometimes I regret sticking to the bit, but hey, it's made its way through, and it's made it a success.
These international trips, I imagine there's been so many. I think there was one of Amsterdam. You went for like 5 days to do a 20-minute talk.
Yeah.
Business class.
How's that?
Business class.
I want you to talk about that, but how's that being received at home by like, is Jody happy for you to be going on these like long weeks away to do very minimal work?
Or is that a non-negotiable? She has to come.
She's great. I actually live video called her from, we've been to Amsterdam on our OE many moons ago, and I actually FaceTimed her and the kids from the red light district, because I went back. I was like, oh, let's go to the red light. Oh, this is me on my own now. I'll go back to the red light district for a look. We did on our OE. And I was shocked about how many families were walking through and like tourist people. And so I kind of get to the side of it and I pull out my phone because I realized the time I'll say goodnight to the kids. And I'm there and she's like, are you in the red light? I was like, yeah, I've come back for a look. And she's fine. And then she's like, what's happening in the background? And it's, oh, you're not allowed to film there. I've just completely forgot. And there's just this prostitute in the background banging on a glass wall and just at me, and you know that they've always got people watching. So I'm like, see ya, hang up, and I just power walk into the crowds to hide. But I was the creepo who's acting like, oh yeah, I'm fully FaceTiming, but zooming in on the prostitute behind me. But she's been awesome. Yeah, she's been great. Definitely, like, when you say who do I ask, now that I've thought about it, it's her. She's like the executive producer, where I'll film something, everything goes past Jody before it goes out. Not that she's like, change this, do this, do this. This will be her like busy hanging the wash down, but like, hey babe, watch this for a second. And she's like, oh yeah, that's good. And that's all I need, and I'm happy. I just need someone else to see it before I put it on the internet.
Yeah.
Everything that I've ever put out on the internet, Jody has seen.
Because she was largely anonymous for a while, right? She was...
Oh yeah, she's only just come out.
Yeah.
She's only just come bursting out. But that was just going back to the fame thing. So once we kind of I got more known, more and more people wanting photos and seeing you on the street, and it's all a bit weird. And she was always, like I say, a few steps back. So people almost sometimes never connected that we were all together. And so she was like, I don't want this. I don't want to be pointed at. So then it played into this really fun thing where she became like Wilson from Home Improvement. And then like the YouTube audience loved it, where like we'd tease the part of her hair, or just like her arm would be in a video. Or we did an April Fool's time where like finally you're going to meet her, and then just cut to like the face swap, but it was my face on her face. So we just played that for so long, and it was such a fun gag to do. And now, yeah, it was her idea. She's like cracking up at all these couples challenges lately. Should it be? Because she started a How To Mum Instagram page probably a couple of years ago, but everything she films is just from POV. Like you just see her hands, you're just never going to see her. And then she's like, I'd love to do one of these couple challenges with you. And then I was like, what? And post it. She's like, yeah, why not? And that was there was no big, we could have sat down and made a semi-viral video by going, actually now meet How To Mum. But we just did it casually. And there's so many angry people messaging, like, I spent all last night scrolling through your Instagram feed looking for the reveal video. I was like, there wasn't one. We just casually did a couples challenge, and there, you've met my wife now. And
I saw those comments. I was there the other night, and it's like, where was the reveal? What the hell? What's going on?
It was just a fun way to do it, and yeah, she's out there now. But it was a good fun years just hiding her.
But she's got a good thing going on. I think she's got 30,000 Instagram followers on
her
account.
Yeah.
Like, is that as a result of you pushing audience to her, or did she just do that organically?
Yeah, mainly a lot coming from me and tagging her in at the start, like How To Mum's got a page. But she's real up and down. She's not a big like, I'm going to be How To Mum. Not at all. She just said, I want to start a page like 2 years ago. I was like, oh, you should call it How To Mum. That'd be pretty funny.